Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to episode 9 of Fracking Nightmare. As you can see from the background, I'm back in the mobile studio, otherwise known as a tent, on Barton Moss on the edge of Greater Manchester. It's a bit breezy here. We had a pretty rough night. The winds were around about 35-40 mile an hour with driving rain. But the protection that has been put in place around the camp since the camp was devastated by the 70 mile an hour winds a little over 2 weeks ago has served its purpose. And apart from one tent taking a bit of a battering, the rest of the camp is actually intact. So thank you very much to all the people who contributed towards the straw bales that are now in place providing the windbreak. Well, it's been a very busy and exciting week in many respects. You remember that last Monday we reported on the wind turbine blade that had been delivered by persons unknown and placed across the gate at the entrance of the iGas well site on Barton Moss. Unfortunately, the wind turbine proved not to be too much of an obstacle, and it was removed after 2 or 3 hours or so. But the incident didn't result in any arrests, so it was a slight delay to iGas. On the following day, Michael Fallon, the Energy Minister, released the document announcing that the rest of the shale deposits in the UK were now up for grabs. So consequently, as it stands right now, 64% of this country is available for petroleum exploration and development licensing. Now, I must confess, this actually came as a little bit of a surprise to me, because I did not expect Michael Fallon to release the whole of the country in one fell swoop. So this is a very interesting development. The reason I think that he has taken this decision is because of the growing awareness throughout the country that the process of hydraulic fracturing is not exactly conducive with maintaining a fresh water supply in this country, let alone non-contamination of soil and atmosphere. So rather than run the risk of the population increasingly being anti-fracking, he's just decided to go for broke, make the whole country available to the Mother-Frackers, and get the process rolling sooner rather than later. Meanwhile, of course, he claims that the social license, i.e. public acquiescence, has been granted to the government to unleash this process right throughout the country. Well, let's see how that goes, because I don't think you have that social license, Michael Fallon, and actually neither do you. You know that you need to railroad this as quickly as possible if you're going to get this off the ground. Meanwhile, of course, you also know your legacy will be that you are the minister who sanctioned the process that will ultimately create a toxified environment in the UK, subjecting future generations to lives of absolute abject misery. But do you care? Of course not. Of course you don't, because you are part of the socio-psychpathic global corporatist elite who think that you are above the law and above anything that you decide to do. Right, let's see what happened later that day. Well, I was invited to participate in an interview with LBC, the London Broadcasting Company. This is a radio program that is broadcast on FM throughout the London area and also on the web. Well, Michael Fallon apparently did not want to go head-to-head with me. So he suggested, apparently, that I have 10 minutes and then he had 10 minutes. Well, in the 10 minutes that I had, I listed all of the problems associated with the process of hydraulic fracturing and specifically encouraged people not to take anything that I say at face value. And I encourage people to listen to the interview with their iPhones and their iPads handy so they could actually verify everything that I was talking about regarding contamination of water, contamination of soil and of the air, and of the negative health impacts upon people who have the misfortune to live above the gaslands of North America, of Canada, and of Australia. Michael Fallon, a few minutes later, simply stated that Britain had the most robust regulation, and it was these robust regulatory controls that would ensure that Britain remained safe. The arrogance and pomposity of politicians and global corporatists, of course, knows no bounds. They will say whatever it takes to achieve their social license, public acquiescence. This is a travesty, and all we can ask is that people do look at this for themselves. The BBC tried to label me as a protester. I am not a protester. Ultimately, it will be the British people who decide whether or not this process is unleashed beneath this country. I am simply trying to encourage people to look at this for themselves, to share the insights that I have into this process, and to encourage them to be part of the decision-making process. Unless they vote with their feet and get down to locations like Barton Moss, here on the edge of Greater Manchester, and let it be known to iGas and to the British government that it does not have the social licence to pursue this agenda, then we run the risk of the whole country being fracked in a very few years. The following day, on Wednesday, iGas got a special delivery. Again, this time it was an orange bus. And the bus had a few accoutrements, in that there were protectors who were locked on to the steering wheel, to the accelerator, one to the drive shaft, another one on the roof, another one on the back, and two inside. Well, this delayed the iGas from taking delivery of their convoy by about 5 or 6 hours or so. In fact, it would have been longer, but the lady who was locked on the top of the bus and had been up there for some 6 hours in cold conditions, cold and windy conditions, was talked down and persuaded that she wouldn't be arrested and that her rights to protest would be acknowledged. Well, this led to the bus being towed away with the two people who were locked on inside still inside the bus. The latest word is that they are now still inside the bus. No, they have been released. I can promise you they have been released, and they will face the usual justice system in due course. Now, after the announcements on Tuesday that the country was going to be put up for grabs by the Mother-Frackers, one would expect, of course, that the media in this country would have gone into great detail about this process, gone into great detail about the areas of the country that would be impacted, the fact that we would ultimately be looking at potentially 6 pads per square mile, the number of truck movements running into hundreds if not thousands per day, and of course the papers didn't disappoint, because they followed the usual course of action and were full of the most critical news of the day. So let me take a look at a few samples here. We have Nigella, Team Nigella, domestic goddess binged on KFC, pizzas and Chinese after getting the munchies. Team Nigella conned. So, unless anybody is living on another planet by now, you should realise, of course, that the most critical thing going on in the UK is that former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Nigel Lawson's daughter, Nigella Lawson, not much creativity there, Nigel, Nigella Lawson has been found, well, I don't know what she was found. Apparently, she used to use a lot of white powder and it wasn't sugar. Well, unfortunately, I missed a lot of last week's action on Barton Moss due to other commitments in the southwest of England. But I returned here on Friday evening, and on Saturday morning I was actually rudely awakened by a convoy trying to sneak past my rather awkwardly parked vehicle. Well, the convoy had snuck in without any police escort and managed to get halfway up Barton Moss Road, when unfortunately, as I say, my car was a little bit out into the road. The convoy was unable to get past, and well, we waited of course for a few people to gather, and then the convoy was given its usual escort. 8:55 on the morning of December 21st, and it looks like a convoy trying to sneak in without a police escort. So this is a rather unusual tactic. I wonder if you know, maybe the police decided that they'd already spent their overtime budget and actually couldn't get any manpower down here, so the convoy just tries to sneak in. Well, it's got about halfway up the lane, but I think it might have a bit of a problem trying to get up the rest of the lane, but we'll see how long it takes for the police to get here. It seems they have a CCTV camera van at the top of the lane here, so we'll see what transpires over the next few minutes or few hours.
I love it.
All we are saying is iGas Fracking.
Just health and safety in action.
All we are saying is give peace a chance.
Trying to dictate the pace of war,
Have a lot to
of movement.
on the bus killer.
No, that
Yeah, they were great.
I think you need
Please don't point at me though.
I'm not pointing. But if I want to point, I will point. If you want to push people, you
trying to
can
be
push
civil with
people. You don't know what the word means, civil. You're a robot.
what you paid for, protecting the public. Not I'm sure plenty of those will then go up to we know that one. She's the one with the trousers down.
Causing aggro.
You're the only one
Yeah.
that's doing
Causing
this.
aggro, mate.
And we've
So
I have to say, you are actually, I think, trying
How
to
long have you
incite
been in
here.
the
So just
force?
chill.
Chill
100
out.
yards.
Because you don't know what
Are you
you're doing.
pointing at me again?
There's 100 yards to go.
Pointing at you,
I
once.
don't
chill.
care.
I've been dead civil.
No, you're not. You're causing aggro.
Move into that space there,
everybody
please.
move, but don't
And
serve
who
the
are you?
face,
Nobody.
okay? Don't serve the
Move
face.
into that space, please. In front of me.
Don't serve the face.
Okay, the people are getting in your way, then step round them and move into a space. Plenty of room.
On the Sunday, when we thought there would be no deliveries, iGas once again tried to sneak a convoy in. But this time it just so happened that the convoy was coming in just as I was trying to head out for my morning shower. But let's take a look at what happened. Okay. But I was literally on my way out to take a shower when they happened to block my way out. But we were told there was no delivery today.
Wait, we didn't.
Well, no, you didn't.
We got phone calls last night.
Did you need my phone number? Need somebody's phone number?
You're all right moving that then, Ian? Yeah. Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
I know. I was literally on my way out to take a shower. So I was going up to the leisure centre. It's the morning of Sunday, 22nd of December. After yesterday, when a convoy came in unannounced and was actually stopped about halfway up the lane, the police trying to keep their presence quiet because they've learned that when we see a police presence, we can expect a convoy. Basically, they tried the same tactic again this morning, but unfortunately, I was literally just on my way out to take a shower at the local leisure centre when I met the convoy coming up the road. And this convoy of about 10 trucks here actually refused to reverse back down the lane to let me out so that I could take my shower. So what could I do except stop the car? Anyway, I got out and a few other people came along and joined us, and that's exactly what we see in the front of the truck right now. So yesterday there were no arrests, but tensions are a little high this morning because basically the arrangement was that we would be advised of a convoy, but yet again we have no advice whatsoever here. So let's see what transpires.
As long as people are not stopping, is there a maximum or minimum they should be moving in law?
This is the convoy coming out. It's going to take them probably about an hour and a half plus to get to the bottom of the lane. And then, of course, iGas may well try and sneak another convoy in. It's a game of cat and mouse. The police are trying to work different tactics. This is twice in succession they've tried to sneak a convoy in. They know that when we see the police, we expect a convoy. So the police remain in the background, see how far the convoy can get. So far, on the 2 days, it's only managed to get halfway up the lane. Hey, it's great to see you back here. I see once again you couldn't resist being surrounded by these young men in yellow jackets.
I love these policemen. They're so kind, looking after me all the time.
I know. All these wonderful people.
Yeah, carrying my chair. Got special arrangements.
Carrying your chair?
Yes. Well, they were. I hope they haven't thrown it over the fence.
We'll get you another one.
Well, it belongs to someone. One of the
arrest them
campers.
for littering as well.
Yes, yes. The campers need it.
Yeah.
So, Anne, what have we got to do to get all your friends down here, though? Because you're down here on your own. Well, not quite on your own, but
yes. At this moment, all my friends seem to be just the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm lucky. I'm not far away.
Right.
I've got transport. I have to have it because I can't do much else these days. I'm sorry, I can't see any reason for me to come to this hour. Yes, but can you see what's happening?
Yeah.
Keep moving forward for us, please.
There's no reason for this. I'm not doing anything to harm anyone else. I just happen to be on the bridge. I'm very easy to push aside.
Yes.
Can't you tell us?
Keep that moving, please, guys. Thank you. I'm being pushed out to the back. I'm being pushed.
It's only been on the line a minute and it's left of an escort already.
We are keeping a picture. Please stop.
So, Inspector, can you confirm that the Crown Prosecution Service guidelines for arrests at peaceful protests will be observed today?
That lady detained.
Sorry, Inspector, I appreciate you probably can't hear me with your earpiece.
Why have they taken her away?
So, once again,
Perfectly safe.
Direction from
So once again, the inspector has actually refused to acknowledge the Crown Prosecution Service guidelines will be observed, and power has been effectively forcibly removed. So there she is.
Stop it!
Stop leaning back on the officer, please, Robin.
Will you stop treading on my bloody trousers? I can't move if you're treading on them.
So
Are you struggling? Can you just... Are you struggling?
No, I'm not.
Just give the 5 step appeal. Completely leaning back on.
Get a camera over here!
Give me the 5 one more time. Tell her no, the 5 step appeal, the camera behind you.
If you continue to keep leaning back on the officers, we will have to remove you and potentially arrest you. Please keep moving.
% of the English countryside is under threat from fracking, a process which has transformed the landscape in many parts of the United States and Australia, and contaminated the drinking water and air with highly toxic chemicals and gases.
1 in 3 hydraulic fracturing was using a carcinogen. So it really is a chemical cocktail that goes into the earth, of which up to 40% remains there.
The grandchildren were in the bath and they started screaming and everything that was in the water was burnt.
the MDs have been instructed not to report any negative health effects that they believe to be associated with living over a gas field.
There's nothing inherent about the shale gas process that is going to lead to problems.
Some of this material was actually taken to a large sewage treatment works, which had no capacity to handle radioactive materials of this kind.
800,000 gallons was dumped into the Manchester Ship Canal.
50 seismic events were recorded during just 6 fracking treatments.
What is the minimum depth that the fracking will fracture?
We can't tell you until we drill the exploration.
Have you no idea whatsoever? Because it doesn't look like you've done your research.
Shale gas is part of the future and we will make it happen.
We are just numbers and we are sat on this rich vein of gas, and they will do and say anything to get that gas out of the ground.
So, Anne, you were effectively corralled and removed from the front line.
I was definitely corralled and I was pushed, I was eased to the side, not quite pushed, but quite definitely surrounded and taken to the side against my wishes. I kept shouting that it was happening and it wasn't what I was wanting.
Yeah, no, we caught that on film, yeah. Good. Now, and we also heard that Vanda was arrested. Did you see her being arrested?
I was trying to see her. The police were very cleverly hiding behind a van and on the edge of the road, and the group round me made a big distraction, so that the observers were beyond me, behind me rather, my group of tall, hefty policemen. So it was really difficult to see this young woman, but we could hear her screams. And I could see the positions of the 2 policemen who were clearly holding her. They were bent down over her. Now...
But did they force her to the ground?
Well, it makes you wonder. 2 very large, well-equipped policemen were bending down over a young woman. I'm not sure that she was choosing to be in that position.
I
cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. So, you know, I don't know quite how else to describe it, and they were making sure they had their backs to those few of us who could see into this narrow passageway anyway. So it was very subversive, isn't the word I want? Sub-something.
So what is your overall impression? You've been down here on a number of occasions now, and you've been right there in the front line.
Yeah.
I mean, what is your observation, or what is your opinion of the way the police are handling this?
Well, I've reached disgusted point this morning because I've witnessed quite what happened. I've never actually witnessed the arrests before. I've not seen the detail of how it's come about. I've been able to keep protesting myself and delaying things, but they've been treating me with kid gloves. Slightly prickly.
Well, it would be a serious own goal, of course. If,
that's right. So they can see I'm just a nuisance for their propaganda. But that's the first time I've seen it. I've seen people taken off. I've been to the police station to inquire how people are and so on. But I've not witnessed the actual arrests until now. And I practically witnessed that one. I witnessed the way it was done anyway. And I could not see any evidence that there was anything but peaceful protesting going on.
I think this is the key element. I mean, everything that has been going on here for the last few weeks has been very, very peaceful. I mean, everybody has gone overboard to ensure that it can only be construed as peaceful protest. But it is pretty scary, isn't it, as to how close we are to this corporate police state.
Yes, exactly.
You know, and how the corporations absolutely hold precedence.
That's it. That's the bit that's bugging me. Behind the scenes, the government is going behind everybody's back and in league with the big, rich company owners. And it's all about money. It's not even about gas. It's about money.
Well, of course, this is a Tory government that claimed it was going to be the greenest government ever. And then, so the shale gas industry wasn't even on the manifesto.
No.
And this came about effectively in 2011 with Quadrilla drilling in the Blackpool area.
That's right.
And then, of course, Lord John Brown, the chairman of Quadrilla, announcing that he would do whatever it takes to get Britain at the heart of the shale gas industry. So when people say, well, you voted for the government, but nobody voted for a shale gas industry.
We didn't vote for that, and we didn't vote for the... what's it called?
The coalition.
The coalition joke. That's just a tragedy. Lib Dems have just let everybody down. It needed somebody very tough and strong-willed to stand against that little baby Cameron. He's a child in my eyes, a very spoilt, ignorant child, but very dangerous and damaging.
Well, indeed. And, the British people are being pushed further and further into a corner. And unfortunately, we know what happens when people get cornered.
They're being pushed into poverty.
Exactly.
And disempowerment and disenfranchised. Votes and campaigns and protests don't mean anything anymore. They're not getting anywhere. And the ground is just being pulled from under everybody's feet, fairly quietly, really. Most people don't know that they're losing what power they had. And we hadn't got a democracy before, but, we might have been easing more that way. Now it's going at the speed of light.
Well, in 2014 is, I think, going to be the year when humanity either has to realise that it's up against this insanity or, the future doesn't bear thinking about, does it?
Yeah, it's getting so dangerous, so overwhelming, so powerful.
And I believe in the human spirit, and I believe that we will prevail. We've just got to keep on doing what we're doing.
Keep doing it and spreading it. There's a wonderful spirit here at this camp. Just get other people to see that, see it clearly. Yeah.
And thanks very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you again soon.
Thanks a million. Thanks a lot.
So, 2 days in succession, iGas tried to sneak convoys in before the people of the camp were out of their tents. Well, was that going to happen for a third time in succession? No, having been caught on the hop twice, the camp was ready for the convoy. So there were people down at the entrance to Barton Moss Road at 7:30, and not to be disappointed, the convoy tried to get into Barton Moss Road shortly after 8 o'clock. Now, it has to be said that after the unfortunate arrests by the tactical aid unit of the previous 2 days, the demeanour on Monday was very different. But could this perhaps have been due to a VIP being present? And the lady that we see here on screen, wearing her distinctive black trench coat, was following up behind the police line with her own personal police liaison officer escort. Well, once we got to the iGas gates, I asked one of the senior officers if I could actually go speak to the VIP. And he assured me that basically once all the trucks were in, then I could go speak with her. Well, she very quickly turned tail and started almost running down the road, but I can run faster. So after about 100 yards or so, I called up with her, and having established that she was here as an observer, and I'd already been told that she was here as an observer on behalf of the Lancashire Police. So, making the link, I assumed that obviously with Quadrilla being present in the Lancashire area, particularly the Fylde Peninsula, that she had been tasked with taking a look at the Barton Moss operation with a view to passing information back to the Lancashire Police, so that they might have an insight as to what to expect the next time Quadrilla tried to get their bits in the ground in Lancashire. Well, after speaking with her for about 10 minutes or so, we got to the head of Barton Moss Road, and as we were saying our goodbyes, I asked her to share her name with me. I'd already been told her name was Amanda, and to my shock, she declined to share her family name with me. When I asked her why there was such a lack of transparency, she told me that she had promised not to reveal who she was, or indeed who she was representing. So I specifically asked her whether she was part of the Lancashire Police. So having asked Amanda to share with me her family name and whom she was representing at Barton Moss that day, she declined to share any of that information with me. I'm not sure how long she thought it would take me to establish her identity, but very quickly it comes to light that she is Amanda Webster, and she is the Assistant Police and Crime Commissioner for Lancashire. Now, why she couldn't share that when that information is in the public domain caused me to have some suspicions. So I did a little bit more digging, and lo and behold, Amanda Webster is a solicitor who specialises in providing counsel to corporations who are facing challenges from protesters. Her most significant claim to fame being that she is the solicitor who successfully got the infamous Swampy removed from the location of the Honiton bypass in my own county of Devon. So, could it be that Amanda Webster was actually at Barton Moss on behalf of either iGas, of Peel Holdings, or of Quadrilla, with a view to looking at ways in which she could streamline the process of shale gas exploration in this country by effectively removing the protection camps? Well, this is a very interesting development. But more importantly, was Amanda Webster actually abusing her position as Assistant Police and Crime Commissioner of Lancashire to actually get a personal police liaison officer escort here yesterday? Amanda Webster, your lack of transparency was a massive own goal. If you'd have simply told me your name and confirmed that you were Assistant Commissioner to the Lancashire Police, I probably wouldn't have had any further curiosity. But of course, we've also discovered that there is a little bit of scandal surrounding the means by which you were appointed. Looks like some pretty significant nepotism, some jobs for the boys there, or girls in this case. And we are now going to dig a lot deeper. So more on Amanda Webster in future editions of Fracking.
If you take an active interest in maintaining the optimum health and well-being of yourself and your family, The New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine is the magazine you've been waiting for. Having taken Australia and New Zealand by storm, the New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine is now available in the UK and Europe. Visit www.nznaturalmed.co.uk or call 01626 337 531 to order your copy now.
So what was it that made you guys aware of the dangers of fracking in this area?
Well, basically we did our own research on it. So we've not only looked at what the message was about the dangers of the fracking, but also looked at corporations that are doing the fracking and the government standpoint on it. And you couldn't deny the impact that this has had on residents. When you look at the residents in America and Canada, Australia, and the impact that's had on them, you can see the emotion. You know, when you're watching grown men cry about the devastating effects it's had on them. We just, you know, that's basically how we made our decision. We weighed up the pros and cons and thought there were too many cons, you know, to support this, so that's why we're against it.
But iGas have held a number of public meetings. Have you attended any of their public meetings at all?
No, we did get an invite on the very first meeting, but they delivered it 2 days before the meeting, so we didn't have a chance to make arrangements to go to that meeting, but that is the only information we've ever had about what's going on.
And they have iGas have a community liaison group who they meet with, I think, once every month or once every 2 months. Are you aware of who sits on that liaison group?
No, we certainly haven't been approached to see if we want to be on the liaison group. And like I said, we're very local, so I don't know who.
And you've never seen any minutes published from those meetings?
No, I think the biggest concern is when you say how were we aware of it. We were aware. We only live half a mile away, but actually, you guys being camped out here. That's what made us aware of it, and obviously I only found out a week after the actual meeting should have taken place, and I live half a mile from here. That's the concerning thing, you know, and obviously there was a meeting the other day we weren't allowed to attend. You know, we tried to attend, but...
And this was the one which I showed last week where we were at the Salford Sharks Stadium.
And obviously, you know, we want the opportunity to have a discussion. You know, it's local, it should be a residents, you know, a meet with residents to actually discuss what's happening in our local area. We weren't offered the opportunity to actually attend, and obviously when we tried to attend, we were refused access, which is, you know, it's a bit upsetting really.
Yeah.
Now, iGas have been invited to participate in an open debate. So, I mean, on the basis that they have so far refused to participate in any discussion or debate with anyone who has any knowledge of the industry, what would your reaction be to that?
What have they got to hide, basically? You know, if they're not prepared to have that debate out in the open, then for me, I can only assume they've got something to hide.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like the opportunity to actually sit down with these people and have a discussion. You know, there's nothing to hide. Let's discuss it and let's see what they want to do. But obviously we're not being told anything.
Now, you guys have been pretty much on the front line. Every time you've been down, you've actually made sure you're right on the front line there, right in front of the police. But you've so far managed to avoid being arrested.
Only just, I was threatened to be arrested on one occasion. Allegedly, I was pushing back, which I wasn't, and I have put a formal written complaint in about that. I am in the process of submitting my other complaint today to Greater Manchester Police about being forced down the road. I think it's, for a woman, I think it's very inappropriate for men to be bumping into you while you're exercising your rights to walk down, essentially, as a public footpath.
Now, we have seen more and more local residents come down over the past few weeks, but what would your advice be to anybody in the Greater Manchester area or even the northwest of England watching this and knowing that this is going to be continuing for probably at least another couple of months? What would your advice to them be?
I would say come down and have a chat with the guys that are here. You know, a lot of the people that are down here are actually, you know, we talk about people not being local. I think that's testament to you know, what they're actually putting into this. They don't live local, but they know what's happening nationally. And I think people should come down, have a chat. You know, everybody's not hippies, and it's not this, you know, this green thing that everybody talks about. It's just about being open and have a conversation. It doesn't hurt to talk to people. Come down, see what's happening, and then you might change your mind and might want to come down and support people and support your local area.
Well, you know, up until a few weeks ago, Barton Moss wasn't exactly on my list of Christmas holiday destinations. But it's going to be an absolutely wonderful time here, I think. And, well, obviously, you're going to be working to prepare Christmas lunch for the camp community here. Yeah. And, well, we hope to see more people over Christmas and New Year.
I hope so, yeah. Could I just add as well, is that if local residents do a little bit of research, it doesn't take a long time. It's not onerous, it's not going to take days and days, you know, maybe an hour or a couple of hours just to research both sides. And if people can come down weekdays between sort of 9 and 12 o'clock, if it's just for an hour, just to help us slow down the trucks that are going into the site.
Excellent. Wayne, any words from you?
No, just be open-minded. That's what people need to be, and turn the TV off just for an hour, like Angela says. Turn the TV off, come down, have a chat with people, and see what's going on. That'd be useful, and I think people would change their minds and obviously be awakened to a few things that are going on.
Yeah, and as you rightly said, there's people here in the camp from all over the country, from all different backgrounds, all walks of life. All different political persuasions, religious persuasions, philosophical persuasions, because when you look at this, it doesn't matter what your belief system, it shouldn't take too long to realise that we do not need this in this densely populated country.
No, we don't.
And we've also said between us that we are prepared to go and visit other sites where this might be occurring to show our support, but it's not just about what's happening in our back garden, this is about the whole of the nation, and we will go and support other residents in other areas as well.
Wayne, Angela, thank you so much for coming down, and thank you so much for your support of the camp. It's amazing that the camp's actually still here after last night, but all the wind defences seem to have held up, so, you know, once bitten and all that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Christmas.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Cheers.
So, Joe, what we got here?
Got a hog roast here. This is kindly donated from a local resident in Blackpool. They come down especially to feed us on this Christmas Eve. As you can see inside, it's all freshly cooked. It just needs warming up. It's been driving for about an hour or two, so it's going to be a festive start to the Christmas period.
So this is Christmas Eve dinner.
This is Christmas Eve dinner, yeah. We have our Christmas dinner tomorrow. That's being prepared by one of the locals.
Yeah, we're going to meet with Angela in a little while, because Angela's preparing a Christmas dinner for us all.
Yeah. So
local residents are coming up trumps.
Well, yeah, it's all about the local residents. They're the ones who are keeping the camp going. You know, we're just on the front line. They're the ones who are all the contributions and donations, and it's a constant flow now. So
keeping us fed and watered.
But yeah, so you know, it keeps our spirits up, great.
So we had a bit of wind last night. In fact, we could see the wind blowing the flags in the background. But looking at the media this morning, we actually got off light compared to the rest of the country.
Yeah, it sounds that way. I mean, I woke up about 1:30 this morning, and my temp was bending, you could say. But and then about 3:30, I woke up again. It was howling. I thought I was expecting to get up with half the site collapsed this morning, but the site was in great order. I think we've learned from the first storm a few weeks back.
Yeah, the wind barriers seem to have held up.
Hay bales and stuff like that. So
So all those people that donated towards the hay bales, or straw bales actually, straw bales. Yeah. Well, thanks very much. Yeah. That's the reason we're still in one piece this morning.
Yeah, that's the reason why we're having a little tidy up, and just the general site clearance, just keep the public, seeing that we're keeping the site clean, so the time past it's not a mess, and that, so yeah, it's good. We've got a few days to get it all in order and be fresh, ready for the year after Christmas.
And I gather you're actually going to feature in The Guardian, aren't you, on Boxing Day?
That's right, yeah. I had a media report with Helen yesterday from The Guardian. She just wants to see how people, locals, doing on the contributing, and my thoughts on it being the local from Liverpool and an area of iGas plans for fracking in the northwest. So yeah, I'm here to support it on the front line for Liverpool and pass the message as much as it can, and hopefully people start realising the seriousness of what's heading their way. You know,
well, you're a sort of permanent resident here, Joe. So
yeah.
Basically, people come down here, they can look for you, and I know you give them a good northwestern welcome.
Good northwestern welcome, and and give them a bit of education about fracking. Go away, you know, to think about what is really happening. I mean, there's a lot of people who seem to starting to now realise what it is, and it's starting to get momentum where it's like an exponential curve in a way. People are going away and then telling other people, and we're seeing new faces every day. So yeah, it's great.
Excellent, Joe. Thanks very much.
No problem.
Enjoy your Christmas.
Yeah, and you. Yeah. Thank you.
Right, I'm joined now by Bob Dennett. Now, Bob, which group do you represent?
Residents Action on Failed Fracking. We're based in St Anne's on the Fylde Peninsula.
And you're actually one of the very first groups to be established, I think, in the UK.
I think we were the second, yeah.
And that was as a direct result of Quadrilla's presence.
Yeah, it was as a direct result of Quadrilla drilling up in the Fylde, which obviously subsequently led to the earthquakes on the 1st of April and the 17th of May 2011.
And were you directly impacted by those seismic events?
Oh, absolutely. I wasn't actually part of RAFF at the time, but I was shaken out of my bed at 2:32 a.m. on the 1st of April 2011 by the first one, which was a 2.3. The one that they describe as Richard Davis from the Durham University describes it as a bus driving past your house. Well, I can assure you, it was like a 48-tonner driving through my house. It wasn't a nice experience.
That's Professor Richard Davis of the Durham Energy Institute, financed partially by BP, I believe.
That is correct.
And of course, Lord John Brown is former Chairman, Chief Executive Officer of BP, and now the Chairman of Quadrilla.
That's correct.
So, yeah, a little bit of, I should say, nepotism, incestuous corporate links there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Bob, what are you doing down at Barton Moss today?
Well, I've come down today because I run a hog roasting business, and I came down today because I thought the guys down here might like a hot meal and a couple of beers on Christmas Eve, and yeah, so that's why I'm down here today.
And you were a regular at Borkum through the summer. I think I saw you most weekends at Borkum.
That's correct.
Through the Borkum campaign.
Yes.
And that was like a 600-mile round trip for you.
Yes, it was.
So Barton Moss is a little bit closer.
A lot closer. Takes me an hour to get here.
Right, and there's about 25 people or so permanently on camp right now.
Yeah.
And so they're going to benefit from your hog roast tonight. Actually, you know, by the way, there's one of the police officers on the evidence gatherers whose nickname is Cannibal Kev. Not our nickname for him, that's the police nickname for him, Cannibal Kev. And we understand that he actually got that nickname because he's addicted to bacon butties.
All right.
So maybe he'll pop by and join in the hog roast.
It's a bit appropriate for a police officer, that, isn't it?
It really is, isn't it? I'll leave it at that one. Now, Bob, I believe that you actually gave evidence in the House of Lords a few weeks ago.
I didn't personally give evidence, but I was. It was Tina Rothery and Ian Roberts, our chairman, that gave the evidence, but we were there with them to support them. And it was quite an experience.
Well, we spoke with Tina in last week's show following that experience. So what would your observation be? Obviously you were able to watch it and view it objectively as opposed to being a direct participant. I mean, what was your view of the whole process?
Objectively, that's a good word, a very good word, because the whole process wasn't very objective. There were probably 25% of the lords that were there that leaned towards anti-fracking, and the rest of them were blatantly pro-fracking, probably with vested interests. Personally, I think we were set up. I think they set RAFF up to try and discredit us, and that's why they had two pro-frackers sat on the witness table. There was that chap from Remsol, Lee Petts, and the guy from the IOD, who basically didn't contribute anything. The guy from the IOD didn't contribute anything, that is. and I think they set out to antagonise Tina and Ian, particularly Tina. They referred to all the men that were there as Mr. And then when they came to talk to Tina, they referred to her as Tina, which was very patronising. And like I said, I think they set out to set us up to discredit RAFF, and in the hopes that if they could discredit us, they could discredit the rest of the protest movement throughout the UK. And I'm very pleased to say that it failed. It failed dismally.
Well, it failed so dismally that there wasn't a single report about it in the media afterwards, so I think that speaks absolute volumes.
Yeah.
Now, Bob, you may not be aware, but yesterday we had a VIP visitor down here during the course of the convoy escort, and it was a lady who we were told was here representing or observing on behalf of the Lancashire police force. I spent about 10 minutes actually speaking with her when we were walking back out from the iGas entrance, and at the end of the discussion I asked her what her full name was, and she declined to give me that information. I then asked her who she was representing, and she once again declined to give me that information. I don't know how long she thought it would take me to find out who she was, but it transpires that she's Amanda Webster, who is the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner for Lancashire. It also transpires that she is a lawyer, and her speciality is working for corporations dealing with protest actions.
No vested interest there then?
Absolutely. So it's very clear that she was either here on behalf of iGas, Peel Holdings, or possibly Quadrilla. Now, Quadrilla are threatening, of course, to return to the Fylde Peninsula in the not too distant future. I mean, what are your thoughts on how things are going to unfold in the Blackpool area now?
Well, currently they have an expired planning permission or planning consent, sorry, to return to the Grange Road site at Singleton and recommence their drilling there. We're told that they're going to put an amended planning application in, although we don't know the details of the amendment. But they currently, with Lancashire County Council's current policies, they can't submit that amended planning application without an environmental impact assessment. We've had conversations with their consultancy, RAFF, who are doing the EIA for them, and they've said that it probably won't be complete until February. Well, there are some not coincidences here, because there's no such thing. Of course, we know that the government's target is to streamline the planning process down to 2 weeks, and their target date for that was the end of February. So we're expecting them to resubmit that application sometime around there, and possibly to try and duck out of the having to complete the environmental impact assessment, because, well, as we know, the government are stripping out regulations. They make reference to the UK's stringent regulatory systems, but we know that they're stripping those out to make it easier for the oil and gas industry to desecrate our countryside.
And in reality, those regulations don't exist anyway.
That's correct. Yeah, that is correct.
So we're in a situation in the UK where at the moment, 2013, well, not at the moment, 2013 has been frack free, and 2014, of course, is our challenging year. And as I've said many times now, you know, humanity really is going to face some pretty serious insanity in 2014. And we have the distinct possibility that there will be anything up to a dozen concurrent exploratory stroke fracking operations around the UK, which is going to require more and more initiative from local communities. You guys in the Fylde Peninsula have had the longest period, effectively, to bring the local population up to speed. Do you feel confident that the local populace on the Fylde Peninsula will rise to the challenge when Quadrilla put their multiple bits in the ground in 2014?
Yes, I do. As things stand at the moment, Quadrilla have made a couple of press releases in the last few months. One was that they were withdrawing from Anna's Road because of the geese, which we all know is rubbish. There were no conditions relating to the geese in that planning application. And they've recently made another announcement that they are going to withdraw from the Wheaton site, the one that actually caused the earthquakes. However, they've had to reapply for planning consent to abandon that well because, again, their planning permission has expired. And as you know, the government made an announcement last week about increasing the licence areas in the UK, and at the same time Quadrilla made an announcement that they're going to withdraw from the Wheaton site. However, in the government's announcement, the document that they released to support it, they stated that the minimum distance between sites will have to be 5 kilometres. Well, the distance between the Wheaton site that they've said they're going to abandon and the one at Singleton is 3.5 kilometres. And so we think that's why they made that announcement, because obviously they can't do anything at Singleton until they've got permission to abandon Wheaton, or until there's something in progress to abandon Wheaton. So when they arrive, we'll be ready for them, we'll be waiting for them. And we expect to see an action similar to, and possibly much bigger than this, here at Barton Moss.
Excellent. Bob, it's going to be one hell of a year. Thank you for your support here at Barton Moss, and thank you for the hog roast, and let's go get those bacon buddies.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Ian.
Meanwhile, although Fracking Nightmare and the UK column are taking a 2-week vacation, which is why the next edition of Fracking Nightmare will be on Monday the 6th of January, but you can tune in for a brief update on frackwatch.info on Monday 30th of December at 9 PM. Catch you then. Take care.